Today's the day of Pentecost. And not many people have even heard of Pentecost, and for a lot of people that have, they would know it from the term of the Pentecostal church. And for anyone who's ever heard of the Pentecostal church, you would potentially know it as some of those crazy buggers that are yelling out, speaking in tongues and praise Jesus and throwing wheelchairs and walking sticks into the trash and all of that sort of business. It's pretty serious and intense looking work, all in the name of God. Beyond the spirit of what they're doing, hasn't always given a very good impression of Pentecost, because people don't really understand that stuff, you know. It's not gentle, loving God business. It can be pretty intense and pretty scary, and for some people it's just ridiculous, you know. It's just utter bullshit, and fair enough, when you look at some of it, you know, it's pretty nuts, pretty out there, and I can appreciate that. But to understand Pentecost is to try and look past some of that stuff, because obviously, like religion is based on our devotion to God and our love for God, and that cannot be a bad thing. But if we look at religion, that's often been a bad thing. And the spirit of devotion to God really isn't about the way we do it, and this is just where the foibles and craziness of man comes into play, because we really can't criticise the intention and desire to deepen our relationship with God. It's really just the way we do it, and if we do that in a really dopey way, especially when that starts hurting and judging other people, because that is no good. But the spirit of it is there, and the spirit of seeking God, and the spirit of knowing God, and finding a place of communion and silence within us that we know, and wanting just to simply come back to that, and to even honour that in our brother and sister and say, yes, there's nothing wrong with any of that. And so I would bring us back to that part of it, I guess, in just telling you a little about Pentecost and really what Pentecost means for me, because I have no religious background whatsoever, and so I bring no religious understanding or context to my relationship to this day. It's very personal, and it was a deeply personal part of my own spiritual journey and transformation time. And so I take full creative license as an independent human on the planet with no religion to tell you Pentecost as I know it, which could be biblically, historically, or whatever, wildly inaccurate. But it doesn't matter. So, Pentecost to me, and as Pentecost as I understand it, is, according to the biblical story, the day Jesus buggered off. He said, "Don't worry, I got you. I'm sending a friend. I'm sending a comforter, so in my absence, you may still call on your relationship to God and your awareness of Christ. And this may be the reminder as I have been your reminder this entire time." And when Jesus buggered off, all of his innermost crew said, "Waiting." And 50 days later, a great light descended upon the innermost circle, and all within the emanation of where Jesus had been. And this great light descended upon the apostles and those in the most immediate space, and that light filled their spirits, and they all began speaking in tongues, and miracles of healing swept through all who were touched by that light. And that light was the Holy Spirit. And it was on that day, 50 days after the departure of Jesus from this space, that Holy Spirit descended and reached the template and activated the template of the human. And so today is really the birthday of Holy Spirit. And to understand who and what Holy Spirit is to really understand the nature of Pentecost. And that at a basic level it has nothing to do with religion. It broadly has something to do with Christianity, but you don't need to look at it that way. And it is wholly relevant to our spirit and to us as a being and the one being that we are in spirit. Because Holy Spirit, while not God and not Jesus, acts as Jesus did. And Jesus was our most immediate, in-our-face link to God, being a reminder, an awakening, a remembering, a symbol and a gateway and a bridge to God within, as Jesus said all the way through. Look within, it's not me, it's you. And so that reminder to look within, as Jesus departed, was replaced by the function of Holy Spirit. And while Holy Spirit is not embodied in any single man or being or post or anything you can go visit and consult, it is well and truly a force that can be consulted within, as really Jesus said the entire time anyway. And I guess the idea of this is that Jesus is kind of trusting people now that if you heard any of the message, regardless of what you think of the story, the way to achieve it is to go within and is to connect to that anchor point within, knowing it is not external. And in this space, in this world, God is not ever present in our hearts and in our minds. And while we know, many of us know, God is and can only be ever present, because God is all there is, it is not always so. In our awareness and in our hearts and in our memories in any given moment, there is often an experience that we would say is godless or is absent of God for various reasons. And in any state where God is not wholly is and present, you would say or call that a state of separation, meaning that there is a divide to heal, a gap to bridge, however you might want to look at it. And Holy Spirit is that bridge. Holy Spirit is the link. That in God, Holy Spirit's role is neutral and obsolete. But in any sense of absence of God from our heart or mind, Holy Spirit's presence is present, loud and clear, to support us in re-bridging that gap. That's what Jesus did, and that was the function of Jesus in this space, to remind and activate and awaken God within us and our awareness and memory of God within us. It was not to look to Jesus, it was Jesus' indication for us to look within, to God within. And Holy Spirit is performing that very same function, but again from within. And it is post-Jesus, upon Jesus' fair advice to say, it's time to have some faith. And if you want to continue this connection as has been established and anchored into the template of the human, it's time to say yes all on your own, because you're not going to get the prompt in the same way that you had, and you basically screwed up the prompt. So it's time to do it on your own, and if you want it, it's no harder, it's no different, but you've got to ask for it, you've got to want it. You've got to recognise that it's within you to begin with, to know that you can ask for it, to know that you want it, to know that it's not coming from anyone on the outside, from any source, from anything, you know. And so you've got to first awaken to the fact that you want it. And most of us get to that point by trauma, by drama, by throwing our hands up in the air going, screw all of this, there's got to be more, there's got to be a better way. And it is in that throwing up of hands that Holy Spirit lifts his head and says, are you ready for me yet? Are you ready to give up, or are you still trying you? You're still doing you, your way. That's all Jesus was saying. That's the message of Spirit. That's the message of Christ. Get over yourself. Stop being you. You don't want to be you. The one us is where it's at. The power is in the ocean, not in the wave. And to be the ocean eliminates wave thinking. And that's Holy Spirit's message, and that's all Jesus' message was, which is the message of Christ, which is the ocean. Today is the day of Holy Spirit, which is simply a reminder of our spirit. It's nothing more than that, certainly nothing religious, nothing Christian, doesn't have to be that. And if you are spiritual in any way, shape or form, whether you just know that or call yourself that or whatever, you've got to see the relevance of today. Because today is the observance of the awareness of God within us And that is all that spirituality is. Like, it's not a practice, it's not anything you think. It's just knowing. It's just knowing isness. Knowing I am. Knowing us, the one us. Not you and me, that makes we. Us. And there is a point when we, you and me, individuated, becomes an us. And by whatever magical miracle, we know there is a moment when a we can turn into an us. And it is the us-ship, the one us, the us united in the one thing. That's Christ. And we feel that in our hearts. We felt it at different points in history. We felt it at different points in our own life. But that's really all that today is reminding us. To go back within, not looking without, not reading and watching and all of that sort of business, but simply go within, and that the guidance system, the bridge to God, is within. And that we don't have it ourselves. We need to ask. We need to have faith. We don't have the same guidance systems on the outside that we have, but all the same on the inside. And it's just a matter of will, aligning your will with God's will. And your will to say, God's will be done through me and into my life, knowing that God's will's got to be better than yours and mine. At least that's what I figured out for myself. So that's what today means for me. And if you are religious in any way or biblical in any way, you might want to have a say about that, in case I got any part of that drastically wrong. Possibly did, but that's the beauty of it. If you can get past religion, it's really about translation, and to retranslate a lot of this stuff back to the truth of Spirit just makes things wholly better and wholly relevant again, because not a lot of people think about Pentecost. Not a lot of people consider that stuff these days, and when you do, it really is in the perspective of religion, and that is because religion has translated this day to mean a certain thing. And that is not true, because I encountered the spirit of this day well outside of religion, and so this day means wholly more to me personally, and I could explain it to you that way. And if that is possible, then it is possible that it could also mean something deeply personal and totally different to you, which has nothing to do with religion either. And that is what I love about today, and that is what I love about Holy Spirit's message to us all, is just to put your crap down and to close your eyes and to listen. And to know what is, and what is for you is the same as for me, and all of us. God bless us on this day of Pentecost. Thank you, Holy Spirit, the reminder, the intuitive spark, the light within.